When I was packing to go to Harvard University for my studies, my fiancé coldly warned me that once I went to college, I should register for accommodation and not come looking for him all the time. Knowing he would be jealous, I didn't even lift my head, just softly replied that it was okay. He didn't suspect a thing and continued, "Since you were so understanding in giving 1111 the postgraduate recommendation opportunity, we'll go get our marriage certificate on the day school starts." I paused, then nodded obediently. Yes, I didn't explain to them that I had already contacted my biological parents in the United States, that I was preparing to emigrate abroad, and that I had already given up on him, and wouldn't feel the slightest affection for him, anyway. His purpose and mine are the same, to get rid of each other completely and never see each other again. There are so many beautiful high-quality novels, but you can't miss the intoxicating romance. The full text is updated to the end. Don't forget to like, recommend, comment, share, and subscribe, and turn on the little bell so the wonderful story can begin immediately. The process for applying for permanent residency is a bit more complicated than that of an ordinary visa. I prepared many documents and had to go back and forth several times. The last time I left the U.S. Embassy, a flashy Ferrari zoomed past on the road. I didn't have time to see the license plate. But I know that limited edition supercar, of which there are only 100 in the world, has only one in this city that belongs to % Ethan. I panicked for a moment, but quickly calmed down. Ethan has mercy in his heart at all times. It's impossible for him to notice me on the side of the road. And even if he does, he won't care. As night fell, I sat alone on the cold floor. % Ethan approached me in great strides, with a somewhat inquisitive tone. "Where are you going?" I looked at him calmly. "What's wrong? I saw you at the American Embassy today. What did you go there for?" "Our research group's project is about to be completed, and we should have results soon. The professor enrolled me in an academic conference in the United States. I will go to present the results of the experiment." This is the answer I had thought of long ago. Jiming also nodded slightly, hiding the subtle emotion from before, when he saw me at the American Embassy today. His first thought was that he was mistaken. How could I possibly be going to the United States without him knowing? He turned around and saw me getting into a taxi, and he started to feel a little uneasy. But that unease didn't last long, because Ethan knows that I love him very much. How could I bear to leave him? In the days that followed, I rented a small hotel near the school and stayed there for an entire week. Fortunately, there was nothing I missed in that empty villa anymore. I just wanted to finish the report in peace, take my own results, and leave this place completely. I have deliberately avoided people these days and haven't heard from Ethan, thinking he had finally given up. So, I went back to the lab with my computer, ready to put the finishing touches on the report. But when I repeatedly tried to access the lab building, the access control system kept showing no permission. I immediately turned on my computer, but found that all my experiment permissions had been blocked. I could no longer view or use the experimental data, research progress, or results that I had worked so hard to obtain. In my anger, I rushed to the academic affairs office. A familiar % professor % reminded me softly, % Avery %. "It's no use you looking for the % professor %. This is not his intention. He can't do anything either." A chill ran down my spine, and I almost collapsed in the hallway of the academic affairs office. At this moment, it is clear to me that besides Gigabyte and the Mo family, who else could force the school and the % professor % to give in at the same time? Meanwhile, the large group for the entire department became lively again. Someone sent a message. "Congratulations, Chloe, on the breakthrough in your experiment, which has gained the recognition of many industry experts." The group was immediately flooded with congratulatory messages, and through the screen, you could feel the joy of Chloe. "Thank you all. I am very happy that the experiment I have been working on for so long has finally succeeded. Tonight I invite everyone to the Intercontinental Hotel to celebrate. Be sure to come." The Intercontinental Hotel? That's not cheap. Nonsense. Morshi is the eldest miss of the Mo family. This amount of money is nothing. In the middle of a round of flattery, An untimely sentence suddenly popped up. It seems to me that Chloe's experimental results are exactly the same as Avery's. Could it be that she copied them? The speaker was a boy who rarely voiced his opinions, and as soon as he said this, the group fell into a terrible silence. On the other hand, Chloe was so angry that she was stomping her foot while holding her phone. Brother, what should I do? Avery has already published her experiment results, and everyone suspects that I plagiarized them. Julian didn't think the same. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. Your brother has been prepared for this for a long time." An hour later, a post suddenly appeared on the campus website, causing a huge sensation. The author posted Chloe's experimental record, detailing her experimental experience over the past year and a half, and at the end, directly named me, accusing me of being dishonest and that plagiarism was shameful. The whole school was in an uproar. Had the top student who had obtained scholarships for 3 consecutive years become a plagiarist who had published the results of others before them? All kinds of insults and accusations came like an avalanche. I had worked so hard for so long, but I ended up being labeled a plagiarist. My head was spinning. I was dazed, and I ran around campus like a madman. At that moment, my phone vibrated. "Student Avery, this is the registrar's office. We have reviewed the posts on the campus website and also inquired with your professor and classmates, confirming that the content of the post is true. The school will not allow plagiarism and will expel you." The day I signed up to withdraw from school, the school gate was full of people, classmates, and reporters with cameras. The post continued to ferment in several surrounding schools, and my crime of plagiarism was almost certain. At the same time, Chloe's experimental results attracted the attention of big names in academic and industrial circles due to their innovative nature, and also attracted many reporters. I got out of the taxi wearing a mask, but someone still recognized me immediately. "Avery, do you have anything to say about the plagiarism issue that's been circulating these days? Such an innovative achievement. Even if you copied it, it wouldn't be yours, so why would you do something like that? I heard you're the adopted daughter of the Mo family. If the achievements originally belonged to your sister, would the Mo family still acknowledge you?" I walked quickly with my head down, trying to avoid those shrill questions. Hearing those words, I suddenly stopped, raised my head, and gave a cold stare directly into the camera. Slowly, I removed my mask, and with a calm but firm voice said, "I'm telling you for the last time, I have not plagiarized anything. As for whether the Mo family acknowledges me or not, it is not important, because starting today, I will no longer acknowledge them either." As soon as she said that, there was an uproar around her. At that moment, Mr. Moore hurriedly stepped out of a black Nancy and pushed his way through the crowd, in front of reporters, classmates, and countless cameras. He slapped me hard. "What nonsense are you talking about now?" I was slapped to the ground, but no one dared to come forward to help me. Mr. Moore turned to the camera with an indignant tone. "Today, in front of my friends' reporters, I want to tell you the truth about what happened. Avery is the adopted daughter of our Mo family. Since we brought her home from the orphanage, we have always treated her as our own daughter, taking care of her meticulously and giving her affection. But since she was little, she has had a rebellious personality. She doesn't like to study, she cheats on exams, she constantly lies. And there is no way to correct her, whether it's the high school entrance exam, the college entrance exam, or the various exams in college. She has always cheated to get good grades. My partner and I saw it all, and it broke our hearts. This time, she went even further, even plagiarizing her sister's experimental results, just to satisfy her vanity. Such a daughter does not deserve to remain part of the Mo family. From today on, the Mo family will have nothing to do with Avery." As soon as the words left my mouth, the surroundings immediately exploded, with insults flying back and forth. I was trapped in the crowd, the pressure like a mountain crushing me. Suddenly, a full mineral water bottle flew from the crowd and hit my forehead hard. Everything went dark before my eyes, and I fainted straight away. The ambulance siren tore through the crowd, and this school farce was forced to end. When I woke up again, the hospital room was empty, with no one around. Only the mobile phone vibrating incessantly on the bedside table. Enduring the pain all over my body, I picked up the phone. The screen was full of insults and accusations. My scandal had already exploded on the internet, and everyone seemed to be telling me I am a heinous plagiarist, a ruthless swindler. This time, I couldn't even shed tears. I got out of bed with a blank face, threw my phone in the trash without thinking, and walked step by step to the hospital rooftop. Standing on the edge of the rooftop, dozens of meters high, the wind howled in my ears, and I slowly released my hands, wanting to feel this familiar air one last time. A moo, a familiar voice echoed from behind, with a tone of confusion. I turned around and saw Ethan running towards me in a hurry. He frowned, and his voice conveyed indescribable emotions. "Emu, come down quickly." He thought that I, like countless times before, would silently accept his pleas with tears. I laughed, shook my head gently, looked at him with teary eyes, my voice trembling but cold. "Did you give those lab notes to Moshi? Were you also the one who forced the school to distort the facts and force me to abandon my studies?" Ethan was stunned for a few seconds, without answering. But I had already read the answer in his silence. "Amu, don't think too much. Those things are not important to you. In any case, you are a member of the Mo family and also my fiancé. This matter. When the storm passes, I will compensate you. Don't be stubborn, okay?" If it were in the past, hearing him admit his identity personally, perhaps I would have already left all the pain behind and obediently returned to his side. But now, I feel like all my internal organs are contracting in pain. Almost unable to stand, I crouched down slowly, hugging myself tightly, as if that way I could retain the last ray of warmth. Ethan seized the opportunity to move forward quickly, pulled me off the platform with a tug, and breathed a sigh of relief when he let go. He looked down at me, with a reproachful tone. "Amu, I know you feel bad, but don't make these kinds of extreme jokes. Aren't you doing this to make Chloe and me feel guilty?" I didn't respond, just looked up at him, with a cold and strange gaze, as if I were looking at a complete stranger. He never wanted to see my effort and pain. He only regarded all of this as my stubbornness and an act. I felt a pang in my heart and realized that such a person was not worth me continuing to waste my life on. I stood up slowly, without saying anything, and turned to walk downstairs. Ethan, seeing that I was ignoring him, felt a little dejected and had no choice but to follow me. Just as I turned a corner, his phone suddenly rang. He looked at the screen, frowned, hesitated for 2 seconds, and stopped me. "Emu, I'll keep my word, I'll make it up to you," before he finished speaking. She had already returned to the hospital room. Ethan was annoyed, feeling something rapidly slipping away. On his phone, Moxie had sent him several WeChat messages in a row. He hesitated for a moment but finally turned and left the hospital. He thought, "When my anger passes, I will pamper her, as I have done so many times before." Thinking of this, he felt much more relaxed. I returned to the hospital room, quickly grabbed my documents, and headed straight to the airport. Before boarding, I turned off my phone and threw it into the toilet in the airport bathroom. Goodbye to everything here. On the other end of the phone, a voice crossing the ocean sounded gentle and sincere. "Dear daughter, after more than 10 years, your father and mother have finally found you. If you want, come to the United States to live with us. We will make up for all the lost years." I was silent for a long time, and finally uttered a word with difficulty. "Okay, that's right, Nan." My mother's voice almost broke. "Mom is going to apply for a visa for you right away. In the remaining 2 weeks, spend more time with your adoptive parents and say goodbye to your friends properly." In the rain, I wiped the water off my face and hung up the phone. But it was very clear to me that there didn't seem to be anyone I needed to say goodbye to. After all, in their eyes, Avery had always been a dispensable existence. The villa door slowly opened, and Ethan looked at me with a cold face, not smiling this time. "So much time, and you still don't understand." My voice was hoarse. "Ethan, I promise you, I will give up the recommended graduate spot to Moshi." Ethan was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect her to agree so quickly. He thought she would cry, that she would resist for a long time. He sighed in relief, opened the umbrella, and invited me into the house. "That's right, it should have been like this from the start." Jiming also nodded slightly, a hint of satisfaction in his normally cold eyes. He poured me a glass of warm water naturally. a rare tenderness on his face. "Emu, you've always been sensible and hardworking. Your grades are so good that there's nothing to worry about. The postgraduate recommendation isn't really important to you. But Chloe is different. She lost so many years in the valley, her foundation is weak, and she finally has the motivation to improve. This time, help her." His tone sounded gentle, but it conveyed an unquestionable certainty. As if he already knew I was going to give in, Avery looked at the lover in front of her, her body trembling slightly, colder than if she had been standing in the rain for 2 full hours. This is the man she has liked for 11 whole years, her boyfriend, her fiancé, and she finally understood that he wasn't cold by nature, but that he had never truly loved her. Avery has few memories of her childhood, only remembering the days at the orphanage. At the age of 10, she was adopted by the Mo family, who were grieving the loss of their biological daughter at the time. Even after bringing her home, the atmosphere in the family remained depressing. Mr. Moore and Mrs. Moore were strict in character and always compared her to their ideal daughter, constantly demanding that she master all kinds of studies and talents, and scolding her if she didn't meet their expectations. During those days, her world was bleak and bitter, and Ethan was the only light. He had an outstanding temperament, was taciturn, but could always handle everything with ease, seeming almost perfect, like the most dazzling king in the crowd, making her unable to look away. The two families had a long-standing relationship and arranged a childhood marriage for them at a young age. After Chloe's disappearance, this engagement fell to Avery, who was adopted. From the age of 10 to 21, she always knew that Ethan was her future fiancé, so she willingly followed him, laughed and cried for him. Ethan never spoke or rejected anything, he simply continued to play the role of a competent fiancé. Avery once thought that he had been moved by their long engagement and was willing to accept her, but just when I thought the relationship was gradually responding, Chloe came back and everything changed. The hot water in her hands suddenly brought her back to her senses, and she turned around and went into the bathroom to rinse the rain off her body. Ethan stood there, looking at her back. "We're going to the Maldives in a while. I'll take you diving." Her footsteps paused. He was always like this. Just when she was about to give up, he would give her a little affectionate sweetness so she wouldn't want to leave. But this time, she didn't soften as he expected. She turned around and looked at him coldly. "Ethan, I don't know how to swim, let alone dive." Chloe was a swimming champion when she was a child, diving, surfing, she did everything well. "It's obvious who you want to go to the Maldives with." Ethan was not at all embarrassed, with a calm expression. "Then, where do you want to go on vacation? I'll take care of it." He rarely asked her opinion. Avery didn't respond or retort. She walked out of the bathroom, and he glanced at her. "Do you have a fever?" Avery smiled bitterly. "It's strange not to have a fever after you locked me outside in the rain for 2 hours in the dead of winter." Ethan picked her up and placed her on the bed, saying, "Stay still, I'll go get the medicine." Just as she finished speaking, her phone rang. The next second, Avery heard Chloe's honeyed voice on the phone. "Brother Mingya, my stomach hurts so much. I feel like I'm going to die. Come quickly." Ethan displayed a rare look of panic on his face, and he turned to leave without hesitation, leaving Avery with a fever in the empty villa. She had such a high fever that she was dizzy, and tears streamed from the corners of her eyes. Love and unlove were so clear. Fortunately, her biological parents found her. "She will be leaving here in half a month, Ethan. I won't like you anymore." The fever came suddenly and violently, her whole body burning as if on fire. She had difficulty breathing, and in a daze, she called 120 and was taken alone by ambulance to the hospital. A person finished the 4-drip, the sky barely dawning. She removed the needle and walked out of the hospital room, hearing a familiar voice in the corner of the hallway. "Mingya Gidge, it's all my fault for having such poor health. The menstrual cramps make me suffer so much. And I made you accompany me in the hospital all night." Avery stopped dead in her tracks, looking through the glass door. In the hospital room, Chloe was lying in bed, and Ethan was feeding her soup, spoonful by spoonful, blowing on it to cool it down, with an expression of tenderness that he had never given to Avery. "You've suffered too much since you were little. That's why your health is so bad. It doesn't matter. I'll be with you to recover little by little. Chloe smiled sweetly. But the smile quickly froze. Brother Mingya, you didn't come back all night. Won't Amy be angry, right? When Avery was mentioned, the smile on Ethan's face faded slightly. She has no right to care about you. These words were like needles piercing her heart. She had loved him for 11 years, been his girlfriend for 3. And in the end, all she got were the words, "You have no right." He leaned weakly against the wall, the light above his head suddenly blocked. He looked up and it was Julian, his brother in the Mo family. His gaze was cold, wary as if he were looking at an enemy. "What are you doing here? What do you want to do to Chloe?" Chloe returned to the Mo family, and on the 3rd day, she had a car accident. Everyone assumed she was responsible. And no matter how much she explained, no one believed her. In the eyes of the Mo family and Ethan, she was someone who would stop at nothing to protect her position. Julian's gaze grew colder and colder. She endured the pain in her heart and uttered a sentence. "I didn't beg to come to the Mo family, it was your parents who adopted me. Now that Chloe has returned, I am willing to leave and return everything to her. Why do you keep treating me like this?" Julian looked at her coldly, as if looking at a fool so naive that it was laughable. "Do you think the Mo family is keeping you because they don't want to lose you? Of course. It's for the reputation of the Mo family." This sentence struck Avery like a bolt of lightning. His body swayed, and in the end, he couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed gently. So that was it. The Mo family was afraid the world would say they abandoned their adopted daughter after finding their biological daughter. So they kept him confined in the Mo family, letting him see with his own eyes how Chloe snatched away everything he cherished and the family he had lived with for more than a decade. From beginning to end, he was nothing more than a substitute. He was in the hospital for 3 days. And no one from the Mo family came to see him. Returning home, it was just as cold as when he left. Ethan probably hasn't been back these days. I suppose he's been keeping Chloe company. This villa was a gift from Ethan for her 20th birthday, and she had always considered it their home. But now, Ethan no longer belongs to this home, and this place no longer has the warmth of a home. Avery took the medicine and lay down on the lounge chair by the pool to sunbathe. She didn't know how long it was until the light above her head was blocked. She opened her eyes and saw Chloe looking at her with an ambiguous smile. "Sister Amy, you're awake. I came here today specifically to thank you for being so generous and giving me the postgraduate recommendation spot that you obtained after 3 years of hard work. How did you get in?" Avery regretted saying those words as soon as she spoke. Besides her, only Ethan had the key to this house. Chloe, indeed, covered her mouth to laugh with satisfaction. "Of course Ethan gave it to me. He's been staying at my house these days, but he had something to do today. So he asked me to bring him clean clothes." A nauseous feeling surged into Avery's throat. She suppressed the oppressive pain in her chest, not wanting to entangle herself with Chloe any further, and coldly gave the order to leave. "2nd floor, take what you need and leave." Chloe, however, remained unfazed and sat directly on the edge of the pool, stirring the surface of the water with her toes. "Amy, I heard you can't swim. Then who do you say Ethan built this pool for? Oh, by the way, don't you know that I've loved swimming since I was little and have even won swimming championships?" The sharp words pierced her ears like needles. Avery endured the pain and replied coldly, "Nothing, if you want to swim. Anyway, you can do whatever you want. You have a good body. At least you let your parents worry less." Chloe, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, stood up abruptly, glaring at him. Avery stopped paying attention to her, got up, and prepared to return to the house. As he passed by her, Chloe suddenly grabbed his arm, pulled hard, and made him fall into the pool. In the blink of an eye, 2 figures appeared simultaneously at the edge of the pool, grabbing Chloe and Avery respectively. Avery hadn't had time to react when Chloe burst into tears. "Daddy, Mommy, Amy wanted to push me into the water, and I still haven't recovered from my dysmenorrhea these past few days. I really didn't." The explanations hadn't even left his mouth when Mr. Moore and Mrs. Moore's gazes were already stabbing him like knives. "We heard you went to the hospital and wanted to come see you. Avery, how can you be so evil? What has Chloe done to you that you attack her again and again?" Do you want to kill her? The insults came like an avalanche, but he, as always, lowered his head, not daring to retort or resist. Mrs. Moore almost poked her fingers into his eyes, and Mr. Moore trembled with rage. Ungrateful wretch. Feeling that it was still not enough to vent his anger, he kicked Avery directly in the waist, throwing him into the swimming pool. The pool is 2 meters deep. Avery can't swim. Desperately splashing in the water, but sinking deeper and deeper, she vaguely saw the family of 3 entering the house hand in hand, and also heard them laughing and saying, "It's just a pool, no one will drown." She even dared to push Chloe. She should also taste the cold water. Her body sank like a falling leaf. Drowning in pain and regret, dying like this seemed too pathetic. After all, she hadn't met her biological parents yet. She even wondered if they would have a little affection for her, like the Moe family had for Chloe. With a splash, a figure plunged into the water and rescued him. Avery coughed up a mouthful of water and slowly opened his eyes, seeing a familiar face, and a surge of warmth welled up in his heart. So it turned out that Ethan still cared about him. However, the next second, Ethan released him, and his body crashed to the icy ground, in excruciating pain. "Avery, how long are you going to keep causing trouble? Wasn't the car accident you caused Chloe last time enough? Now you want to hurt her again." Whenever it came to Chloe, Ethan completely lost his usual composure. Avery froze on the spot. Before she could say anything, Chloe rushed out and pounced on Ethan, tears streaming down her face. "Brother Mingya, don't blame Amu, she might not have done it on purpose." Ethan raised his hand to hug her, gently stroking her back. "Chloe, don't excuse her, it's just that her nature is incorrigible." She turned around and glared coldly at Avery. "In consideration of the many years we've known each other, I'll spare you this time, but if there's a next time, I won't be lenient." Avery collapsed onto the freezing ground, her soaked clothes chilling her to the bone, but not as much as the coldness in her heart. It's always like this. They choose to believe Chloe over and over, painting him as the bad guy, but it's clear that the person who really gets hurt every time is me. Staggering, she returned to the house, and the laughter inside abruptly ceased. Those gazes were as if they were looking at a despicable intruder. She gritted her teeth and wanted to rush upstairs, but suddenly realized that her necklace was gone. Could it have fallen into the pool? Chloe shouted exaggeratedly loudly. Avery felt her heart lurch and quickened her pace, trying to escape everyone's gazes. Mr. Moore, however, shouted coldly, "Stop! Was it you who threw Chloe's necklace into the pool?" He turned and shook his head weakly. "It wasn't me, I didn't push her or throw the necklace." But she had just recovered from an illness and had been fighting in cold water for a long time. Her body was so weak that she almost fainted. "I clearly saw you grabbing Chloe's arm, trying to push her. How dare you still argue?" Mrs. Moore's shrill voice echoed through the villa, like a knife, cutting away the last vestige of dignity. At the same time, Chloe was leaning on Ethan's shoulder, with tears in her eyes and a delicate voice. "If it were a normal necklace, it would be fine. But it was a gift from my mom and dad. In the years I was kidnapped, it was this necklace that helped me stay alive. I always hoped I could see them again." Upon hearing this, Mrs. Moore immediately recalled her daughter's hardships over the years, and she hugged Chloe in distress and burst into tears. Mr. Moore turned even paler with anger, stepped forward, and dragged Avery downstairs, shouting angrily, "How can you be so jealous? If we don't find Chloe's necklace today, I won't forgive you." As he shouted, he forcefully dragged Avery out of the house. No matter how hard Avery struggled, she couldn't break free. She could only look up at Ethan, casting one last pleading look for help. But Ethan's gaze was as cold as ice. Without even a hint of warmth, he was silent for a few seconds, then turned, picked up a diving mask, and handed it to Avery. "Put this on and look for her in the pool." Avery shook her head, her voice trembling. "It wasn't me." Ethan interrupted, his tone harsh. "This is what you owe her." With that, he forcefully shoved the mask onto Avery's face, and Mr. Moore, without any mercy, pushed her into the water. For people on the shore laughed and chatted, occasionally urging, "Faster, don't be lazy." Whenever he saw that Avery was moving a little slower, Mr. Moore would grab the long stick and hit the surface of the water. With a cold voice, Slower and I'll really hit you." Avery didn't dare to look up. He could only slowly grope in the icy water of the pool. The sky darkened, the water temperature dropped lower and lower, her vision blurred, and her movements became slower and slower. As she breathed, she heard Ethan's cold voice. "Without that necklace, Chloe won't be able to sleep. Don't try to stall on purpose. If you don't find it, don't come up." In desperation, she sank to the bottom of the pool to continue searching. After 5 long hours, she finally felt the necklace in a crack in the drain. She used her last ounce of energy to surface, climbed to the shore, collapsed by the pool, panting heavily, completely exhausted. Several people came over, took the necklace, with disdain in their eyes, and left. Chloe clung to her parents' arms, not looking back. Ethan coldly uttered a "take care," and strode after them. The laughter gradually faded away, the night breeze brushed against her skin. Avery lay alone by the pool. Completely unconscious. He was unconscious in the villa for 2 days. When he woke up, he called his biological parents who were abroad, his voice deep but firm. "I've thought it through. Don't apply for a short-term visa. Just help me apply for permanent residency directly." A cry of joy came from the other end of the phone, but Avery didn't feel a trace of relief. Leaving the city where he had lived for more than 20 years was heartbreaking for him. And he wasn't even sure if he could adapt to an unfamiliar environment, nor did he know if his biological parents would really accept him wholeheartedly. But he understood that the worst possible future could not be worse than the present. Applying for permanent residency is much more complicated than a regular visa. Avery prepared a large amount of materials and went to the US Embassy several times. The last time she left the embassy, a Ferrari sped past. She couldn't see the license plate, but she knew intuitively that it was Ethan's car, a limited edition supercar with only 100 units worldwide, of which he owns the only one in the entire country. She felt a slight sting in her heart, but quickly consoled herself with a scoff. Ethan has Chloe in his heart. It is impossible for him to notice her by the roadside, and even if he saw her, he wouldn't care. In the night, I sat alone on the cold floor, turning the TV volume up to the maximum, trying to cover up the silence of this spacious villa. The lock was opened, and a familiar face appeared at the door. Ethan quickly approached him, his tone questioning. "Where are you going?" Avery asked calmly. "What's wrong? I saw you at the embassy today. What were you doing there?" "Oh, our research group's experiments are coming to an end. Professor helped me sign up for an academic conference in the United States so I can present the results." This excuse, Avery already had it prepared. Ethan nodded slightly, hiding that slight unease. At first, he thought he was mistaken, that it was impossible for Avery to hide from him that she was going to the United States. But on second thought, he felt that he shouldn't care. Avery loved him too much, and it was impossible for her to really leave. Besides, Avery's relationship with the Mo family was there, and in recent years, he had been Avery's only support in this world, an affection rooted to the core. How could it be broken just like that? He raised the corners of his lips, regaining his usual tenderness, as he had countless times in the past, and gently ruffled Avery's hair. "Want to watch a movie? I'll keep you company." Avery almost blurted out, "Aren't you supposed to be with Chloe tonight?" But she swallowed it. She knew Ethan's character well. A hit and then a caress. He silently refused, randomly chose an old romance movie, and watched it with tears in his eyes. While Ethan glanced at his watch from time to time, when the closing song ended, Avery whispered, "I'm sleepy, I'm going to bed first." She slowly got up and went upstairs. Tomorrow the Intercontinental Hotel is celebrating postgraduate admissions. As the older sister, remember to prepare a gift. Ethan instructed from behind. Avery didn't respond, simply walking silently upstairs. The next morning, Ethan sent someone over with a beautiful gift box. Opening it, "I discovered a diamond watch of great value," and the card read, "Congratulations Chloe, your wish has come true, Avery." Avery smiled bitterly. Ethan's consideration was always so thoughtful, but was this thoughtfulness for him or for Chloe? Arriving at the hotel, harmonious laughter could already be heard in the reserved room. He hesitated with his hand on the doorknob, wondering whether or not he should enter. If he entered, the atmosphere would immediately become tense, but if he didn't, Mo and Ethan would say he was insensitive and ungrateful. He was still hesitating when he suddenly heard the crisp sound of a cup falling to the ground. Through the glass of the private room, he saw Chloe with her lips pursed, her smile vanishing. Mrs. Moore asked immediately and sharply, "What's wrong, Chloe?" "It's nothing." Chloe sighed softly. "I just saw a message that Avery has gotten experimental results. It's said to be a breakthrough, and everyone is congratulating her in the group." The smile on Mr. Moore's face also gradually faded. Julian, somewhat skeptical, took Chloe's phone and checked the group chat history. That day was precisely the day the graduate recommendation results were announced, and at first, the group was full of messages congratulating Chloe. But then someone suddenly sent a message: Avery's experiment was a success and there was a major breakthrough. The group's direction immediately changed. And everyone sighed that Avery was a scientific research genius, and some even said that she should be directly recommended for a doctorate. Chloe's moment in the spotlight was immediately overshadowed. Julian, furious, slammed the table. "This Avery is definitely doing it on purpose. Deliberately choosing today to announce the news and embarrass Chloe." "Exactly, he always likes to draw attention," Mrs. Moore continued angrily. "If his family doesn't pay attention to him, he goes to school to draw attention. He's really wicked." Mr. Moore took out his phone and said indignantly, "He's robbing Chloe of everything. What is there to be proud of?" "I'm calling him right now." Julian suddenly grabbed his father's hand and said softly, "Dad, calling him won't do any good, with that I don't care what happens attitude. I have a better way to control him." "What can we do, Mr. and Mrs. Moore asked almost simultaneously. Julian, with a malicious look, muttered, "Isn't it just an experiment? It doesn't matter if there are any important discoveries. Why don't we just say Chloe did it? This way, Chloe will be the research genius. Not only will it secure her admission to the master's program, but even a direct doctorate won't be a problem." Chloe beamed with excitement, immediately stood up. And all the sadness on her face transformed into joy. "My brother is smart after all." Mr. Moore and Mrs. Moore nodded repeatedly. "You are right. Anyway, everything that Avery has should belong to Chloe. We've raised him for more than 10 years. What does it matter if we give an experimental achievement to Chloe? This way everyone will praise our family." Julian is eager to act, but he also knows that his relationship with Avery has always been bad. And speaking rashly will definitely arouse suspicion. He turned his head to look at Ethan and tentatively asked, "Ethan, what do you think?" Outside the door, Avery felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar, her hands trembling uncontrollably. She covered her mouth with all her might, trying not to cry. She had known for a long time that the Moe family did not care about her feelings, but hearing with her own ears how they planned to seize her achievements sent a chill through her heart. "Ethan, will he agree?" She barely dared to breathe. After a brief silence in the room, Ethan's deep voice resonated. "Okay, I'll talk to Avery and ask her to cede the results to Chloe." Right now, Avery only felt a sharp pain in her chest. She didn't dare go back to the villa. She hid directly in the lab and turned off her phone. But Ethan found him anyway. He went to the dean to ask for the lab keys, because he knew Avery wouldn't go anywhere but the lab, under the dim light. Avery looked up from the computer, dark circles under her eyes and looking completely exhausted. Her eyes were bloodshot as she watched Ethan approach step by step. Ethan smiled slightly, as if he was brewing something. "Are you still busy? Didn't you say the experiment had results?" "Yes, it's out." Avery spoke in a hoarse voice, with difficulty. Ethan rubbed his head and gave a kind smile. "Congratulations, Emu." Avery closed her eyes, not replying. But in her heart there was still a glimmer of hope. She hoped that Ethan would sincerely congratulate her and not mention that cruel request. After a while, Ethan stopped smiling, his expression indifferent. "Emu, give the results of this experiment to Chloe." This sentence struck Avery's heart like a hammer. Even though she had guessed it long ago, it still hurt her to the core. Before he could even open his mouth, Ethan had already begun to explain. "You're good at studying, you're talented. And you'll definitely be able to achieve even more in the future. Chloe is different. She's about to start graduate school, and she can't afford not to have some decent articles under her belt." Avery, trembling, leaned on the table, finally unable to contain herself and questioned, her voice almost hoarse, "Ethan, I'm a good student, I'm talented, but don't you see the effort I put in? I spend day and night in the lab, my hands are corroded by the chemicals, layer after layer. I put my whole heart and soul into this, to get this one result. Ethan, don't you have even a little bit of heart?" Ethan frowned, his expression growing increasingly impatient. Suddenly, he slammed the table hard and looked up at Avery with contempt. "What's the point of struggling? Don't forget your position. You've enjoyed the good life in the Mo family for over 10 years in place of Chloe. Shouldn't you give her some achievements now? You have to be grateful, not just think about receiving. If you continue to be so selfish, you'll be ungrateful." He paused and added, "Don't worry, as long as you please Chloe, I won't break up with you. Take it as compensation for Chloe." The words ungrateful pierced her heart like knives. Avery suddenly smiled, a bitter smile, clutched her chest, and looked at the man she had loved for 11 years. It turned out that, in his eyes, she was just a ruthless and ungrateful substitute. He tried his best to push Ethan away. And his voice was as cold as ice. "Ethan, just consider me ungrateful. I won't let Chloe keep the results of the experiment. This time, I won't give in." With that said, he left without looking back. Ethan watched his back coldly, with a sharp look. A few days later, Avery rented a small hotel near the school. Planning to finish her report there and then leave completely with her results, she deliberately avoided the crowd and hadn't heard from Ethan in the past few days, thinking he had given up. When he returned to the lab building with the computer, preparing to make the final arrangements, the card reader indicated that the card was invalid several times. He called the professor. "Professor, why is my access disabled?" The once warm voice on the other end of the phone was now chilling to the bone. "Avery, as of today, you are no longer a member of the lab and cannot re-enter the lab building." "Why?" he asked, incredulous, but on the other end of the phone was only the cold beeping. He sat down hastily on the step, turned on the computer, but discovered that all experimental permissions had been blocked, and he could no longer access anything related to the laboratory, not even see the results of his own research. He arrived at the academic office in a rage, but didn't see the professor. A familiar professor reminded him in a low voice, "Avery, don't look for your professor, it's not his intention, there's nothing he can do either." Avery felt a chill that went to the bone. She crouched down in the hallway, despair slowly taking hold. She should have guessed, Ethan wouldn't stop after being rejected. Who else could force the school and the professor to give in at the same time, besides the G family and the Mo family? Just then, the faculty group boiled over again. Someone sent a message congratulating Chloe on her experimental results, saying that her research had been recognized by many industry experts. The group was instantly filled with various congratulatory emoji packs, and even through the screen, one could feel Chloe's satisfaction. "Thank you everyone. After so much effort, my experiment has finally yielded results. I am truly very happy. Tonight, I'm inviting you all to celebrate at the Intercontinental Hotel. Don't miss it." The Intercontinental Hotel, that's a really expensive place. What a joke. Chloe is the eldest miss of the Mo family. What is a meal to her? Chloe is beautiful and kind, and she also has great research skills. It's admirable. Amidst all the praise, a discordant note emerged. "Why do I feel like Chloe's experiment results are identical to Avery's? Could it be that she copied them?" The one who spoke was a boy who usually went unnoticed, and as soon as he said that, the group fell into a deathly silence. Meanwhile, Chloe, holding her phone, stomped her foot furiously. "Brother, what should I do? Avery released her experiment results beforehand. Everyone suspects that I plagiarized." Julian, however, didn't take it seriously and smiled slightly. "Don't worry. Your brother is already prepared." An hour later, a post on the campus website sparked a major controversy. The author of the post displayed Chloe's experimental log, which meticulously recorded her experimental process over more than a year, and at the end, directly named Avery, accusing him of dishonesty and shameful plagiarism. The whole school was in an uproar. Avery, the super student who has won scholarships for 3 years in a row, was accused of plagiarism and even publishing other people's results before they did. Insults and accusations came like a tide. Avery walks alone on campus, listening to the whispers of passing students. Plagiarist. Heartless, he worked so hard for so long, but he became a thief in everyone's eyes. He was dazed, running wildly around the campus like a madman, shouting with all his might, "I'm not a plagiarist, I haven't plagiarized, this is my achievement." But the more he lost control, the more people gathered to watch. And accusations rose one after another, completely drowning out his explanations. At that moment, his phone vibrated. "Avery, student, this is the Academic Affairs Office. We have reviewed the posts on the campus network and also consulted with your professor and classmates, confirming that the posts are true. The school will not allow plagiarism and will expel you. The day I went to process my withdrawal, the entrance of the school was crowded with people. There were students from the school and also reporters with telephoto lenses and flashes. In the past few days, the post had spread to several nearby schools. And the charge of plagiarist against Avery had been completely solidified." Meanwhile, Chloe, thanks to her revolutionary experimental results, attracted great attention from both the academic world and the industry, and reporters also flocked to her. Avery got out of the taxi wearing a mask, but she was still recognized instantly. "Avery, do you have anything to say about the plagiarism scandal that everyone has been talking about these days, with such an innovative result? Even if you copied it, it wouldn't be yours. Why would you do that? I heard you're the adopted daughter of the Mo family. If the real owner of the results was your sister, do you think the Mo family would still acknowledge you?" He lowered his head, trying to avoid it, but upon hearing these questions, he stopped, slowly turned around, and stared at the camera with a cold gaze. He took off his mask and said in a firm voice, "I'll say it one last time, I haven't plagiarized anything. And whether the Mo family acknowledges me or not is not important, because I won't acknowledge them anymore either." As soon as he said this, there was an uproar around him. At the same time, Mr. Moore hurriedly got out of a black car Nancy and strode into the crowd, in front of reporters, classmates, and cameras. He slapped Avery and shouted, "What nonsense are you talking about again?" Avery fell to the ground from the slap, but no one around him dared to help him. Mr. Moore turns to the camera, with a tone of indignation. "Today, in front of everyone, I want to make this clear. Avery is the adopted daughter of our Moore family. We brought her from the orphanage and have always treated her like our own daughter, but since she was little, she has had a rebellious personality, doesn't like to study, cheats on exams, lies compulsively, and never learns from her mistakes, whether it's the high school entrance exam, the college entrance exam, or university exams. She has always achieved good results by cheating. My wife and I see this and it breaks our hearts." He paused and added, "This time she has gone even further. Out of vanity, she even plagiarized her sister's experimental results. Such an evil daughter doesn't deserve to remain a member of the Mo family. From today onwards, the Mo family and Avery have nothing to do with each other." As soon as he finished speaking, the insults erupted. Avery was surrounded by the crowd. The pressure was like a mountain closing in. Suddenly, a full mineral water bottle flew from somewhere, hitting her forehead hard, and she fainted on the spot. The ambulance rushed over, dispelling this school farce. When he woke up again, there was no one in the hospital room, only the mobile phone vibrating non-stop. Ignoring the pain all over his body, he picked up the phone, the screen full of insults and accusations. His scandal had already spread all over the internet, and now, everyone regarded him as a plagiarist by nature, a ruthless man. This time, Avery couldn't even cry. He got out of bed expressionlessly, threw the phone in the trash, and climbed step by step to the roof of the hospital. Standing on the edge of the roof, tens of meters high, he slowly released his hands, letting the wind brush his fingertips, feeling this familiar air for the last time. "Emu." A familiar voice came from behind. Laced with panic, she turned around and saw Ethan rushing over. Avery had lost a lot of weight, and Ethan hadn't realized it until this moment. She was standing on the high rooftop, as if a gust of wind could blow her away. Ethan frowned, his tone complex. "Emu, come down quickly." He thought Avery would accept a sweet date with tears in her eyes, as before, but Avery smiled, gently shaking her head, looking at him with glassy eyes and a trembling voice. "Ethan, was it you who gave my lab notes to Chloe, and was it also you who, along with the Mo family, pressured the school to distort the facts and force me to drop out?" Ethan was stunned, not answering, but Avery had already gotten the answer from his silence. "Amu, don't overthink it, those things aren't a big deal to you. Anyway, you're a member of the Mo family, Chloe is my fiancée. I'll make it up to you after this is over. Amu, don't be stubborn." Before, if Avery heard this kind of consolation, maybe she would hold back her tears and return to his side, but at that moment, he only felt as if his heart had been torn apart. His face was pale, and he slowly crouched down, hugging himself for warmth. Ethan took the opportunity to move forward quickly and dragged him off the platform with a jerk, breathing a sigh of relief when he let go. He looked at Avery and said in a reproving tone, "Amu, I know you feel bad, but don't make these kinds of extreme jokes. Aren't you just doing this to make Chloe and me feel guilty?" Avery didn't respond. She looked up at Ethan with a strange, distant gaze, as if she were looking at someone who had nothing to do with him. She understood that Ethan had never seen her efforts, her grievances, and her pain. In his eyes, all of this was just Avery's willfulness, stubbornness, and even means of seeking attention. Avery scoffed inwardly. She shouldn't waste her life on people like this. They weren't worth it. Avery got up and slowly walked downstairs. Ethan felt a little frustrated seeing that she was ignoring him, so he raised his leg and followed. Just after turning a corner, Ethan's phone rang. He looked at it, frowned, hesitated for 2 seconds, and called out, "Mo Ching, Mo Amu, I'm keeping my word, I'll make it up to you." Before he finished speaking, Avery had already returned to the hospital room. Ethan felt frustrated, as if something was rapidly slipping away. At that moment, Chloe sent several WeChat messages in a row. Ethan hesitated for a moment, but finally left the hospital. He thought that Avery was furious at the moment, so it was better not to go looking for trouble. He would wait for her anger to subside before trying to calm her down. The effect would definitely be much better. Wasn't that how it had always been? Ethan felt a little better after thinking it through. Avery returned to the living room, quickly gathered her documents, and went straight to the airport. Before boarding the plane, Avery turned off her phone and threw it directly into the airport toilet. Goodbye to everything here. Jimmy also went to the hospital the next day and entered the family ward, but there was an unfamiliar face inside. He hurriedly grabbed the person in the bed and asked, "Where is Avery?" The other person was startled and quickly pressed the nurse call button. The medical staff hurried to say, "Sir, Mrs. Avery was discharged from the hospital yesterday." Ethan frowned and asked where she had gone, but the nurse didn't recognize him, looked at him, and said, "Shouldn't family members know best where patients go after leaving the hospital?" Ethan choked, strode out of the hospital, and drove back to the villa. On the way, he kept calling Avery, but only heard the cold beeping sound. Jiming also stepped on the accelerator to the maximum, and the irritability in his heart had reached its peak. After so many things, Avery is still so unfeeling. I must teach her a good lesson when I get home. The familiar scenery is changing in front of him. But Jiming doesn't know that in this city where he and Avery have lived for more than 10 years, there will never be Avery's figure again. Jiming also quickly drove back to the villa. But when he opened the door, he found it cold and desolate. He stopped a random Nancy and asked, "Where is Avery?" Nancy was also confused. "Isn't Miss Avery with you? He hasn't been back for a long time. He even settled our wages in advance and fired us all. I'm leaving today too." Ethan searched the entire villa but couldn't find Avery. The man flew into a rage immediately, sweeping a vase off the shelf as he cursed. Avery has really gotten capable. She failed to get attention by jumping off the building, and now she dares to run away from home. As night fell, in the bustling and lively bar, Ethan found himself in a particularly quiet booth. From time to time, scantily clad beauties would come over to flirt, but he wouldn't even lift his eyelids, and the manager would come over to persuade them to leave. Ethan. What other Ethan could there be in Baisha? Leave quickly, don't run into him, he's not in a good mood these days. Ethan seemed to have heard nothing. simply taking the whiskey in his hand, one glass after another, pouring it into his mouth. He had gone a whole week without being able to contact Avery, and then, surprisingly, she sent him many messages, gently persuading him to go back, but he never received a reply. An irrepressible irritation arose in his heart. Ethan closed his eyes. His mind was full of the image of Avery crouching on the terrace, hugging him and crying. And his heart also began to feel bitter again and again. Another glass filled to the brim. Jiming also felt a pat on his left shoulder. Julian put his arms around his shoulders, looking at the person in front of him. What's wrong? I heard the manager say you've been coming to drink every night this week. He even asked me, why don't you reply to her messages? Ethan was stunned for a moment, broke free from Julian's arm, and poured him a glass of wine. It's nothing. I'll call Chloe in a while to explain it to her. Julian nodded, took a sip of wine, and looked at Ethan. His state was indeed a bit strange. Ethan looked up, meeting his gaze, hesitated for a few seconds, and then asked in a low voice, have you seen Avery? Avery? Julian felt even stranger. He rarely heard Ethan mention Avery. He thought Ethan no longer cared about that person. Avery disappeared. I looked for him for a week and couldn't find him. Julian chuckled. What are you looking for him for? Don't you know his tricks? It's just a tantrum to disappear, waiting for everyone to soften, and then he'll appear. He is very scheming. He loves to use those little tricks. Jiming also frowned and said nothing, drinking wine glass after glass. He originally thought the same as Julian, but this time the time seemed too long. Julian looked at him like that, feeling a little complicated. He originally thought that Ethan no longer liked Avery. That's why he dared to say those things so brazenly in front of Avery, but seeing him now, it seems he still cares. What should Chloe do? Hey, she likes Ethan so much that it seems I have to think of a way to help Chloe. After a moment of thought, Julian stood up and said, I came to remind you that tomorrow is Chloe's birthday. I know. Ethan nodded. Julian left, not forgetting to leave a sentence before leaving. Drink less and come early tomorrow. Ethan pretended not to hear anything and staggered out of the bar at midnight. Returning home alone, he felt dizzy and shuffled his feet, his head full of blood. He collapsed on the sofa and unconsciously called out, Emu, Emu. The villa was empty and no one answered. Then he remembered that Avery wasn't there. He staggered to the kitchen. Before, when he drank too much, Avery always offered him a glass of honey water at just the right temperature. And there was always a small pot of millet porridge in the kitchen for his stomach. But now the kitchen was a mess, with used glasses soaking in the sink, giving off a stench. Ethan left the kitchen to look for medicine in the medicine cabinet. All the medicine was neatly placed. Except for the stomach pill box she used to take. Ethan's heart was filled with anguish. Avery, your tantrum this time is truly endless. The next day, Chloe's birthday party was as extravagant as last year's. Guests arrived early and sent their blessings and gifts. Jiming was the last to arrive. Although he had taken a bath, he still smelled of alcohol, and his temperament had a bit more decadence than usual. Chloe hesitated for a moment, but still greeted him and took his arm intimately, coquettishly saying, Ethan, brother, you're finally here. Hehe, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Jimmy also forced a smile. Sorry, hehe, I've been very busy these days and forgot to prepare a gift for you. Chloe pouted and her eyes turned red, with tears welling up, feeling wronged. Ethan patted her on the back, comforting her. Hehe, don't cry, it's my fault. After the banquet is over, brother will take you to make up for the gift. Chloe held back her tears, a smile on her face, looking at Ethan affectionately. The party began, everyone raised their glasses and toasted, and Moshi was surrounded in the center. Smiling brightly, Julian raised his glass and clinked it with him, and then clinked it with Ethan next to him. Ethan, let's celebrate 11/11's happy birthday together. Ethan nodded silently, stood up, and raised his glass towards Chloe. Happy birthday 11/11. Julian winked at Chloe, jokingly saying, haha, quickly make your birthday wish. Your brother Ethan will surely be able to fulfill it. Chloe lowered her head shyly, wanting to say something but not saying it. Brother Ethan. You have always understood Chloe's feelings. Haha, this was something Julian and Moshi had planned in advance. to confess to Jiming at the birthday party as well. They thought Ethan would definitely not embarrass him in front of so many people, but before Moshi could finish speaking, Ethan interrupted him. Haha, I've always thought of you as a younger sister, my girlfriend is Amy. His voice wasn't loud, only the people next to him could hear it, but Chloe still felt extremely embarrassed. With tears in her eyes, she looked at Ethan in disbelief. But Avery is already gone. No, Amy is just angry. She will definitely come back when her anger subsides, Ethan said firmly, and because of this, the atmosphere at the main table became awkward. Mr. Moore and Mrs. Moore looked at Ethan with obvious displeasure. Because of the relationship between the two families, they couldn't get angry and could only sincerely advise him. Ethan, you know very well that our two families arranged an engagement between you and Chloe since you were little. Later, Chloe was lost, which allowed Avery to replace her in your engagement. Now that Chloe has returned, this engagement should naturally be returned to her. Besides, that girl, Mo Chingmu, is capricious and inconsiderate, and her character is flawed. How can she be compared to our Chloe? Normally, when the Mo family said bad things about Avery in front of Ethan, no one cared. But today Ethan felt that these words were particularly hurtful. Avery certainly did something wrong, but this time the plagiarism was his doing, and it was indeed unfair. If they continued to suppress and bully her, I'm afraid it would be difficult for Avery to return. Jiming also put down his wine glass, and under the anxious gaze of Mo's parents, he slowly stood up. Let bygones be bygones. 1111 has suffered grievances before, and now Amy has also suffered grievances. In the future, I will compensate Chloe well and also take good care of Amy. I hope everyone will stop saying these things in front of Amy in the future. Ethan's tone was polite, but it revealed an aura of certainty that did not allow for doubt. Let the Mo family realize that Ethan was not only the son-in-law they believed him to be, but also the sole heir of the G family. Julian said nothing, and Mr. Moore and Mrs. Moore didn't dare to say anything more, due to Ethan's actions. Morshi's birthday party suddenly cooled down. Although no one said anything on the surface, everyone left quickly one after another. Chloe looked at Ethan, who was calm, feeling both angry and impatient, but she didn't dare to express it. After the party, Ethan took Chloe to buy a lot of luxury gifts. ID equals 11. Chloe couldn't understand what Ethan was thinking, but she felt quite happy to see the expensive gifts in his hand. The next day, Chloe, who was showing off her designer clothes to her colleagues, received a call and was asked to go to the laboratory building for a meeting. She had stolen Avery's experimental results, so naturally, she had to go to the lab from time to time to show her face. What kind of meeting is this that I'm being forced to attend? She complained as soon as she entered, and was met with a cold stare. Seated in the head seat of the conference room was a handsome, clear-featured boy who looked like he had just come of age, but he was wearing a black suit and exuded a seriousness that didn't match his age. Professor announced at the meeting that this boy was the agent of the largest U.S. biomedical group, the Maddie Group, and that Kai Hao was returning to his country to acquire their lab. Chloe secretly observed him. Even stranger, how could there be such a young agent? Liam also looked at him. I heard that student Moshi's molecular fission experiment was successful. This achievement is quite remarkable both domestically and internationally. Can student Mo replicate it once more? That number 10 doesn't speak Mandarin very well, but he is basically understandable. Chloe hadn't had time to think about how he knew her name. Liam had already stood up and extended his hand towards Chloe, motioning for her to replicate the experiment results. Professor wanted to help Chloe out of the predicament, but was stopped by Shahao's cold gaze. This man isn't much older, but his aura is terrifying. For the results of an experiment to be recognized by academia and industry, verifiability is the most basic requirement. Do you want people to say that your entire laboratory is committing academic fraud? Professor was so frightened that he didn't dare to speak, and watched helplessly as Moshi was led to the laboratory table. Chloe knows she can't replicate the experiment results and wants to refuse, but Liam coldly warns her that if she doesn't replicate the experiment results, it means she has committed academic fraud. The reporters are already waiting downstairs. What you put others through before will eventually happen to you. Chloe has no choice but to put on her gloves tremblingly, take the test tube, and start operating based on her instincts. Due to her slowness, the process becomes incredibly long. What happened in the lab quickly spread among the other students. When Keeman arrived at the lab, he saw a man in black grabbing Moshi's hand and coldly asked, "You don't even know the order for adding the reagents, and you dare to say this is the result of your experiment? You, %% Chloe." Kai Hao turned around and glared menacingly at the professor. "And you too, together you stole the results of the experiment that originally belonged to Avery. You are all accomplices who condone fraud." Everyone was shocked by Liam's momentum. The professor's plump body wobbled and collapsed into the chair, knowing that he was finished this time. Ethan, who had always been calm, broke into the laboratory without a care, grabbed Kai Hao by the shoulders, and asked him anxiously, "Do you know Avery? Did he send you? Where did he go?" Kai Hao coldly shook him off. "Where he went is your business. You just need to know that he won't be back." Jin Ming also felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and his face paled instantly. He shook his head in disbelief. "Impossible. Why do you know Avery? Who are you to him?" Kai Hao looked at Ethan, who was questioning him arrogantly, feeling disdain in his heart. When his sister was around, he treated her like trash, but now that his sister won't be back, he seems to care. A man like that is not worthy of his sister. Kai Hao curled his lips into a mocking smile. "Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is that I will pay little by little for the things they did to Avery." Kai Hao turned to leave. Ethan wanted to chase after him, but Moshi hugged his arm from behind. Chloe looked at him trembling. "Ethan, brother, what do we do? That person said the reporters are downstairs. That is going to make Avery and me go through the same thing. He's coming for me. I'm so scared." Chloe doesn't want to go downstairs. Ethan doesn't feel like paying attention to her and pushes her directly. Not long after, reporters carrying cameras and microphones swarmed in. Shahao not only bought this laboratory building, but also invested to become the largest shareholder of this school. The reporters asked Chloe about various experimental details according to their requirements. Chloe huddled in a corner trembling, unable to answer any of them. The headline news that day became the academic fraud of the Mo family's wife and daughter, accusing their adopted daughter of stealing academic achievements. The reporters didn't know where they got the information that the Mo family had deliberately concealed over the years, revealing between the lines the true faces of hypocrisy, partiality, and rudeness of the Mo family's parents. Chloe was pointed at and scolded wherever she went and was a mess. In the end, she could only hide in the bathroom to wait for the Mo family to pick her up. The driver took her home, and Chloe burst into tears as soon as she entered the house. At the same time, the Mo family, seeing the overwhelming news on the internet, was so angry they almost fainted. Mo shouted as he rummaged for the fast-acting heart rescue pills. For a moment, cries and screams came one after another, and the entire Mo family was in a mess. The door was pushed open, and Julian strode in with a stack of documents, his face also extremely grim. "I found out that pool number is the son of the head of McD Group. The parents of the president of McD Group are Chinese. Recently, there's news that they found their daughter who was lost many years ago, and that person is Avery. How could this be?" Chloe was incredulous, snatching the photo from Julian's hand. In the photo, a family of 4 smiled happily. Avery was in the middle, next to Liam, whom she had introduced today. The other 2 middle-aged people with extraordinary temperaments must be the president of McD Group and his wife. Chloe burst into tears instantly. Julian, unable to console her, hurried to inform Mr. Mo, who had just recovered. "What's worse? I found out that Shahao is already buying shares of our company in the market. With today's news, our company's stock price plummeted. The Maddox Group has a lot of money, and with this trend, we will soon be absorbed by them." Mrs. Moore, anxious, paced back and forth across the room, full of regrets. How could this happen? How did Avery turn out to be the daughter of the chairman of the Maddox Group? It must be because we treated her that way before, which caused her brother to come and take revenge on us. Mr. Mo felt a surge of blood in his chest and a sweet, metallic taste in his throat. He swallowed it with difficulty. closed his eyes, and made a difficult decision. Julian. Find out where Liam lives, we'll go personally to apologize. Standing in front of the luxurious suite on the top floor, the Mo family stood in a neat line, their eyes red and swollen, their faces haggard. After waiting for half an hour, the suite door finally opened. They immediately put on a flattering and hypocritical smile. Mr. Kai, we are here today to explain some things about your sister Avery. Kai Hao reminded them expressionlessly. I remember it was Mr. Mo who announced in front of the reporters that he was severing ties with my sister, so now she has changed her name to Kai Avery and has nothing to do with your Mo family. The Mo family's manner choked and couldn't speak, and the complexion of the person behind him became even uglier. But he still forced a smile and bowed deeply to Liam. I'm sorry, Mr. Kai, we didn't know at the time that she was the Kai family's daughter, and we made you feel bad. I'm very sorry. Kai Hao's eyes swept over them like knives, and they couldn't help but tremble all over. Oh, you didn't know she was the Kai family's daughter, so you could bully her. I want to ask Mr. Mo, what was your original purpose in adopting her? Did you regard her as a toy to vent emotions on? Or did you regard her as a real person? Liam had a biting tongue, almost accusing them of being mercenary and looking down on people. The Mo family realized that he had said something inappropriate and immediately apologized. I'm sorry, Mr. Kai. I admit that after finding our biological daughter, Chloe, we wanted to make up for what she didn't have, so we neglected Avery a bit. But, Mr. Kai, please understand the feelings of parents. We just want to love our daughter. Isn't that okay? Besides, we raised Kai Avery, paying for her college. Even if we haven't done anything meritorious, we have worked hard. Please have mercy and stop putting us in a difficult position. Shahao listened to Mr. Mo's explanation with a mocking expression. It was even more so that the so-called hard work of Mr. Mo was to treat him as someone else's substitute since he was a child, beating him and scolding him, and demanding that he live like his biological daughter. Could the Mo family not even afford to raise two daughters? Why, after my biological daughter returned, did they have to make things difficult for my sister in every way, forcing her to give up everything she had worked so hard for to someone else? After my sister returned home, our whole family loved her very much. But my parents would never ask me to give my things to my sister, because they understand that love is not sacrificing one to please another. They never treated my sister as their own biological daughter. She was merely there to satisfy their own selfish desires. You are not worthy of being her parents. As soon as Kai Hao's voice fell, Mrs. Mo covered her face and sobbed. She wanted to say, that's not how it is. In the orphanage, among a row of children, he had noticed Mo Qingmu immediately. She was so well behaved and sensible, never causing trouble, but she couldn't say these words anyway. Her mind was filled with images of herself scolding and insulting Avery. The door slammed shut, and Mo Fu lowered his head, feeling ashamed to the point of wanting to disappear. The other members of the Mo family also had complex expressions. Liam was obviously very angry, and it seemed like he wasn't going to let the Mo family off easily. They wandered around the door, but couldn't think of another solution. Inside the house, Ethan was standing in the corner, clearly hearing the conversation between Ba Kai Hao and the Mo family, his expression complex. Liam's words seemed to be scolding him as well. Liam also glanced at him and coldly gave the order to evict him. Ethan. I've told you, my sister isn't here. Ethan raised his head, a plea hidden in his eyes. Where is she? Let me see her. Shahao looked at the man in front of him and was silent for a long time. When he was in the United States, his sister told him what had happened in China, and he was determined to protect her and prevent people in China from bothering her anymore. But this Ethan had been sitting downstairs at the hotel for several days, constantly begging to be allowed to see his sister. Perhaps they really need to see each other again to completely break with this past. Kai Hao thought this, nodded, and said, but I can only take you there. Whether she sees you or not is my sister's decision. Liam took Ethan to the private jet heading to the United States. Upon boarding, Ethan had a somewhat complex expression, and once on the plane, seeing the luxurious decor, he felt even more uneasy. Ethan had been spoiled since childhood. Being the ultimate authority in the Ji family in Bay City, But in front of Liam, his sense of superiority seemed worthless. And what about Emu? What kind of life will she be living now? For the first time in his life, Ethan, who had always been a darling of the heavens, began to doubt himself. After a long flight, the plane landed on a private airstrip in the San Francisco Bay Area. A well-dressed butler bowed respectfully, and a chauffeur drove a globally limited edition Rolls-Royce through a stately estate worth a fortune, leading them to the garden where Avery was. The garden was filled with tulips, Avery's favorite, and a gentle breeze carried a refreshing fragrance. Avery was sitting on a swing, holding a cat, basking lazily in the sun. Beside her, the president of the multi-billion-dollar Maddie Group was personally grinding coffee for her. While the president's noble wife fed her daughter hand-baked cookies, under the sun, the smile on Avery's face was dazzling and touching, making the surrounding blooming tulips lose their color. Ethan silently watches the scene in front of him, unable to react for a long time. Emu. How long has it been since he last saw Emu? And how long has it been since he saw such a smile on her face? Ji-ming is also filled with the joy and excitement of having recovered something lost. And a smile appears on his face. He straightens his clothes, puffs out his chest, and strides forward. Perhaps Emu's identity has changed, but his essence is still the Emu who loved him for 11 years. Emu. Ji-ming also used the gentlest voice of his life to call him, and the moment he looked up, Emu was already in front of him, opening his arms to hug him. Avery subconsciously took a step back, avoiding his embrace. Ethan's hand froze in the air, and the smile also froze on his face. Avery stared at the person in front of her, who seemed both familiar and strange, and was stunned. She thought she would never see him again in her life. Liam left with Kai's parents, as they trusted that Kai Avery was capable of handling everything well. In the huge garden, only Kai Avery and Ethan were left. He sat back on the swing, stroking the cat in his arms leisurely, with an indifferent expression. Ji-ming also reached out as usual to stroke his head, and then squatted down to look into his eyes, with a gentle gaze. Emu, I missed you so much. Don't leave without saying a word next time. I'll worry. You can tell me where you want to go and who you want to see, and I will accompany you. If it were the old Avery, she would have burst into tears in his arms at such a deep confession. But at this moment, Avery only sneered coldly. Ethan, your expression of deep affection seems very hypocritical to me. Have you forgotten what happened before? Hearing him mention the past, Ethan knew he was still angry, hesitated for a moment, lowered his head and apologized. I'm sorry, Emu. I haven't been good. I know I've wronged you. It was me before. I didn't take your feelings into account. Please forgive me. Avery only found it ridiculous. A paltry apology to erase the hurt he had caused her. In her heart, his love and forgiveness seemed to be a matter of course. Avery looked at Ethan seriously, with an icy gaze, as if looking at a stranger. Ethan, do you really think that just by saying sorry I'm going to forgive you, that if you lower yourself to look for me I'm going to come back to you without hesitation, that if you tell me you love me, I can forgive everything and forget the past, and continue following you as I have for the last 11 years? Ethan was stunned for a moment, without saying anything, but the answer was obvious. Avery smiled slightly and said, Ethan, I used to think that I would love you all my life. But your indifference slowly consumed all my love for you. You didn't care when I had a high fever alone at home. You didn't care when I was in the freezing pool for 4 hours. You didn't care that all my things were stolen. You didn't care that I was despised and lost faith in continuing to live. You only cared about Morsha's every move, every joy, and every sorrow. Now I'm tired. I choose to withdraw and please you all, and don't bother me anymore either. Scenes from the past constantly flashed before Ethan's eyes, and he felt as if he had been electrocuted. Finally realizing that he seemed to have done too many things that hurt Emu, filled with guilt and remorse, he gently shook his head, wanting to explain, but he stammered in confusion. It's not like that. Emu, it's not that I don't care about you. You're my girlfriend. How could I not care about you? %. Avery raised an eyebrow, her eyes full of sarcasm. As if she knew he didn't even believe what he was saying, Jimin also lowered his head in embarrassment under her gaze and said with difficulty, I'm sorry, Emu. I was wrong. I know I did a lot of stupid things that hurt you before, but after all, we've been together for 11 years. Give me another chance, okay? Avery shook her head gently, plucked a tulip at random, and said, Jimin, I pluck this flower. I make it lose its vitality, and then I say to it, I'm sorry, do you think it can still revive? That tulip fell to the ground, scattering its petals. Avery turned around and went into the house. Ethan was not resigned and said, Amu, is it because you became the daughter of a wealthy family that you no longer appreciate me? After 11 years together, Avery felt laughter upon hearing him. Ethan never truly understood her. Ethan, you were the one who trampled on my sincerity. No matter whose daughter I am, you don't deserve to have my love again. After saying that, Avery left without looking back. Ethan staggered and barely managed to stay upright by holding onto the swaying swing. His nose hurt, and emotions flooded his heart. Amu was truly different than before. Not only had his identity changed, but his feelings toward him also seemed to have changed. This realization filled Ethan with fear. During the time Amu was away, he realized that he had already become accustomed to having him in his life, and no matter who he was now, he couldn't let him leave. With this thought in mind, Ethan stayed at a jewelry auction in California. As soon as Avery Shang-chi entered the venue, she felt a burning gaze. She followed the gaze and saw Ethan, who was wearing a suit and had a tall and upright figure, striding over during the auction. Avery boredly and casually raised her paddle once. Without paying attention to what the auction item was on the stage, amid the soaring bids, Ethan calmly stood up and made a gesture to light up the sky. Finally, the emerald bracelet was auctioned off to Ethan for a price 10 times higher than the market price. With the auction over, he approached Avery, bracelet in hand. Looking a little uneasy, the presenter, Amu, said, This emerald bracelet represents letting go and hope. I'm giving it to you. How about we leave the past behind and start over? His eyes sparkled, flashing a light of hope, and he looked at her with eagerness and anticipation. Avery saw her own reflection in that sparkle, as if she were the only bright star in his eyes. Her heart skipped a beat, and she turned her head and blinked rapidly twice. She knew that if the former Ethan had met Ethan like this, she would have thrown herself into his arms, moved and forgetting all the sadness. But now, those pains had already run deep, making her cautious, not daring to let go in the slightest. Avery took a deep breath, regained her composure, and said in a distant tone, Ethan, you've misunderstood. I don't like this bracelet. The pain of the past is an experience life has given me. I have nothing to forgive. I'm doing very well now. Instead, Ethan, you should look into your own heart. It's not about what is lost that's important. Think carefully about what really matters to you. And don't disturb my life again. With that said, Avery left without looking back, leaving Ethan alone in the huge compound. Amu's words echoed in his mind. What do I really care about? Jimmy also wanted to say, I care about you, Amu, but it seemed to be too late. Ethan's tourist visa was about to expire, and he still hadn't been able to see Avery again. The day before returning to his country, he went to the Kai family mansion, hoping to see him again. A storm of rain and wind broke out. Kai Chingmu stood by the window, watching the heavy rain in the dark night. Shahao handed him a glass of red wine. He took a light sip, and another flash of lightning illuminated half of the night sky. Her heart skipped a beat. He hasn't left yet. Shahao shook his head. No, he always says he wants to see you. No matter how much I persuade him. Avery gave a wry smile. A few months ago, it was also a rainy night with thunder and lightning. In order to force him to give up the recommended graduate quota to Mo Shi, Ethan locked him outside in the rain. Now, everything has been reversed. You say that a person who was once within reach, only after they leave do you start to regret and cherish them. Is this out of love or resentment? Kai Avery murmured to herself, not knowing whether she was asking herself or Kai Hao. Kai Hao smiled wryly. No matter why, it was all self-inflicted. Kai Chingmu closed her eyes, waved her hand at Liam, dismissed him and said, I won't see him. The black Rolls-Royce drove out of the mansion and stopped in front of Ethan, whose new suit was soaked by the rain, leaving him in a pathetic state. The car door opened and he took 2 steps forward with his stiff body. The smile he had barely managed to put on his face freezing when he saw Kai-hao. Where's Amu? He couldn't believe Amu would be so cruel, not even wanting to see him. Go, he won't see you. Kai-hao's voice was icy. And the person who had been standing upright suddenly staggered as if they had lost their support. Why won't you even give me a chance? Their voice was terribly hoarse. When you locked me out of the door and forced me to grovel in the rain, weren't you heartless? Liam said sarcastically. Another lightning bolt flashed across the sky. Ethan staggered. Liam didn't feel an ounce of sympathy for the gaunt man in front of him. If you don't leave, I'll make sure you can never return to the United States. After saying that, the Rolls-Royce turned around and returned to the mansion, and Jiming finally couldn't hold on any longer, and slowly squatted down, leaning against the nearby tree. The rain mixed with the falling tears, and he tasted a salty, wet flavor, and a dull ache in his heart. At that moment, he finally realized that his Amu really seemed like he wouldn't forgive him. He was scared, at the same time. On the other side of the earth, the Moore family's villa was also welcoming a storm. Mr. Moore, Mrs. Moore, and Julian were busy dealing with the company's crisis when two middle-aged people dressed plainly walked into the Moore family's villa. Chloe's face changed when she saw them. What are they doing here? The woman hurried forward to grab her hand, her face full of enthusiasm. Daughter, why haven't you been answering our calls lately, or sending us money? I saw on the news that the Moore family is about to go bankrupt. Hurry up and get some more money and come back to Dad and Mom. Chloe shook the woman's hand off in disgust. The Moore family is having financial difficulties recently. I don't have any money to give them, I'm telling you. A dead camel is bigger than a horse. The people of the Moore family are very good to me. Even if they go bankrupt, they won't let me suffer. I'm warning you, don't look for me again. I don't want to see you. As soon as Moshi finished speaking, the sound of shattering glass came from the study. Before he could react, the study door was pushed open. Mr. Moore, Mrs. Moore, and Julian were staring at him, eyes full of suppressed anger. He was startled and explained tremulously, Dad, Mom, brother, how come you're home? Originally, they were going to the company, but because Mo Fu wasn't feeling well temporarily, Julian brought the documents home. But he didn't expect to hear the secret that Moshi had been hiding. Mrs. Moore could no longer control her emotions and lunged forward furiously, grabbing Moshi's arm tightly and asking in an angry voice, Who are they? Why are they calling you money-draining daughter? What do they mean by all this? No, it's not like that. Mom, listen to me. Chloe burst into tears immediately. In the past, when she made mistakes, her mother would soften, but this time, no matter how much she cried, Mrs. Moore remained unmoved, holding her wrist tightly. Mom, you're hurting me, Chloe pleads tearfully. But Mrs. Moore doesn't care. The middle-aged man who had been silent the whole time suddenly lunges forward and pushes Miu Miu to the ground. You hurt my daughter. Hey, the news was right. There isn't a single good person in your Moore family. I shouldn't have sent my daughter here to be bullied for money. As he said that, he grabbed Moshi's hand and walked out. Daughter, let's go back and not play with them. Anyway, the Moore family is about to go bankrupt, and I don't need to pretend to be their daughter anymore. Hearing the words pretend to be their daughter, the Moore family became enraged and completely lost control. The housekeeper Mo stepped forward to help Mrs. Moore stands up, while Julian stops the middle-aged couple. Several people push and insult each other, creating chaos. Half an hour later, the police arrived at the scene, understood the situation, and took them to the hospital for a paternity test. The test results showed that Mo Shi and the Mo family were not related by blood, and that she was indeed the daughter of the middle-aged couple. The middle-aged man blurted out, I already said so, but you didn't believe me, you fools. Your daughter was kidnapped by traffickers, probably to sell her organs and take her life. The Mo family then realized that when the real Mo Shi was kidnapped, this couple had witnessed it. At that time, in the area where they lived, cases of child kidnapping were frequent, and it was rumored that there was a deranged organ trafficking gang behind it. They were afraid, dared not call the police, and even picked up the necklace that the real Mo Shi had lost while struggling. Years later, they saw the search advertisement that the Mo family had continuously posted. To get money, they sent their daughter to the Mo family, posing as Chloe. The fake Chloe was able to clearly describe the situation on the day of the kidnapping and showed the necklace, so the Mo family did not suspect and directly recognized her, completely forgetting to do a paternity test. This time, Chloe Jia had become accustomed to the carefree life of a rich young lady and wanted to cut ties with her biological parents, so as not to be coerced by them or give them any more money. The two couldn't restrain themselves and went directly to her door, thus revealing the truth. After learning the whole truth, Momu couldn't bear it, clutched her heart, and fainted on the ground. The Mo family was even more enraged, snatched the scalpel from the nurse's hand, and lunged at Chloe Jia. "Bitch, you dare to deceive me. You entered my house with premeditation. Turned my house upside down. My 1111 is gone. My Amu is also gone. I'm going to kill you." Mr. Moore stabbed Jia Morshi, although he didn't hit a vital point. He committed an act of violence in front of the police, which was atrocious in nature, and he was arrested on the spot. When Ethan returned to his country, the news about the Mo family's real and fake daughter had already spread everywhere. Ethan felt a little confused, since Chloe is fake. Then is the dispute between him and Amu real or fake? Jiming was also eager to know the answer, so he asked someone to investigate Chloe's address and went to find her, in the dark alley. Jia Morshi is directing her biological mother to work. "Clean this place up a bit. What's wrong with you? You can't even do this job well. Mo family's Nancy is better than you, and this food you made is terrible. I want to eat seafood." The wealthy woman was stunned by her scolding, and finally couldn't help but retort after a while. "Daughter, my family only has these conditions. You are no longer the daughter of the Mo family. Don't be so picky." The fake Chloe flew into a rage, reached out and smashed a cup, pointing at the other person and shouting, "Old woman, what are you talking about? If it weren't for you, would I have become like this? I'm telling you, when Jiming comes back, he will definitely take me back to the Ji family. You know, they are even richer than the Mo family." The rich man was skeptical. "Daughter, are you telling the truth? That guy, will he give you money?" Chloe crossed her arms, looking superior. "Of course he and the Mo family are different. They don't care about my identity. Anyway, I have no blood relation with him. He is very easy to deceive. He believes everything I say. He will do everything possible to get what I want. This time for sure too. Wait, tomorrow I'll go to the G's house to wait for him." With a creak, the old wooden door opened. A man dressed in black was standing at the door, emanating a chilling breath. Like a demon. "Ethan, brother." Jia Morshi was startled for a moment, and immediately shouted in a soft and delicate voice. The next second she was dragged away by Jiming as well. In the narrow alley, rain and rainwater mingled, giving off an acrid stench, and the rooster's crow also grabbed Jia Chloe by the neck, asking her word by word, "What have you lied to me about?" Jia Chloe gasped for breath, tears welling up in the corners of her eyes, struggling desperately. "Brother Ethan, don't be like this. I'm very, very scared." Ethan didn't answer, and the strength in his hands grew stronger and stronger. Jia Chloe was frightened, begging incessantly, "I was wrong. I'll tell you. Let me go." The rooster's crow also relaxed, releasing her. Chloe Jia backed away, barely looking at the strange, crazed man in front of her. "I admit I deceived you all. Avery's car accident wasn't his doing. I planned it to get everyone's attention on me. Later, many things were also planned by me intentionally. Avery never did anything to me. It was always me framing him." Seeing Ethan's gaze growing increasingly grim, Chloe Jia trembled. "I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'll never dare to do it again." Hearing that answer, Ethan wasn't surprised. He just found it incredibly ridiculous. He found Chloe and the Mo family ridiculous, and he himself was even more ridiculous. He and Amu had known each other for 11 years, but when he had a conflict with others, he didn't hesitate to choose to believe them. He was supposed to be the person who knew Amu best, but he had never given her trust, respect, and understanding. Ethan, with red eyes, punched the light pole in the alley again and again with his fists, until his hands were bloody. At that moment, he fully realized how wrong he was. Ethan's outburst greatly frightened Jia Morshi, who didn't dare to continue speaking to him and staggered away. Ethan stood in the rain, with anger and pain lingering in his eyes. He knew he was crazy, but he had already lost his beloved Emu, so nothing mattered to him anymore. 15 days later, Jeomorsh's biological father was tricked into becoming addicted to gambling, and the already impoverished family staggered under a huge gambling debt, faced with a bottomless pit of a family of origin. Jeomorshi wanted to escape but had no chance. He worked desperately to earn money every day, and his once well-cared-for hands were covered in blood blisters. But the money he earned was only a drop in the ocean for his father's gambling debt. Later, debt collectors came to their door. His father beat him unconscious and handed him over as if he were a commodity. When he woke up again, his mouth was taped shut, his hands and feet were tied. And he had already been put on a train bound for Southeast Asia, and the national landscape gradually transformed and disappeared before his eyes. Exhausted, Jeomorshi closed his eyes and shed tears of despair. He knew what awaited him and regretted it, but it was too late. Meanwhile, in the hospital ward, Mrs. Moore lay on the bed, haggard, her face devoid of color, and her eyes swollen from crying. Julian, holding a lunchbox, hurried in from outside. His shirt wrinkled and looking extremely gaunt, Mrs. Moore struggled to sit up, grabbed his hand, and anxiously asked, "How was it? Did you see Ethan? Is he willing to help get your father out?" Julian touched his cheekbone, which ached slightly, and shook his head helplessly. "This injury was inflicted by Ethan. Mr. Moore has been detained for a month and will face a public prosecution next month. She has consulted a lawyer. And intentional injuries are punishable by at least 5 years in prison. Moore is older and cannot bear to see her father go to jail, so she has spent her entire fortune seeking help everywhere. Relatives and friends who used to be close treat her like a plague, and not only do they not help, but they don't even want to show up." Julian had no choice but to ask the G family for help. G-Minute also opened the door for him, but her gaze was very strange. The siblings who had grown up together had now become people who hated each other. When Julian stated his purpose, Ethan only replied coldly with 4 words, "You deserve it." Julian was immediately enraged and stepped forward to grab him by the collar. "Ethan, at least my parents watched you grow up. How can you say such inhumane words?" Ethan met his gaze without backing down. "Isn't that so? You always mistreated Emu since he was little. As a child, you forced him to learn things he didn't like. And you never praised him, even if he practiced the piano until his fingers cramped. When he grew up, you believed that everything he had was thanks to you, and you stripped it away and abandoned him at will. You never truly loved or respected him, but you always spoiled the scheming Jeomorshi. Do you know? Emu never hurt Chloe. It was all planned by Chloe. You fell into the trap, and Shen tortured him in every possible way. You are so evil and petty. Don't you deserve it?" The most hurtful words come from the mouth of the best brother. Julian was trembling with rage, and he shouted, "You say we, Mingyi. Are you any better?" Ethan, who had also been suppressing his feelings for a long time, couldn't bear it any longer and punched him. The two got into a fight, and Julian, who had been traveling and working hard for many days, was no match for Ethan, who beat him up and kicked him out of the villa. Mrs. Moore saw the wounds on her son's face and guessed the situation. Julian, with a broken voice, told Mrs. Moore the truth he had heard from Ethan. "Mom, Emu has never put anyone in a difficult position. We had misunderstood him before." Mew Mew, upon hearing this, covered her face and screamed at the top of her lungs, "We misunderstood Emu. We hurt him. It's all our fault." At the detention center, Julian helped Mew Mew and waited a long time. Finally seeing a staggering figure approaching under the guidance of a prison guard, he couldn't believe that the hunched old man in front of him was his father. The Mo family's hair was completely white, their figure thin, and with several bruises on their face. Mrs. Moore, upon seeing him, immediately burst into tears, trying to take the Mo family's hand through the glass, but she couldn't reach it. Julian, also with reddened eyes, picked up the phone and said, "Dad, are you okay? Why are you so thin? Is someone bullying you?" The Mo family gently shook their head while holding the phone, looking at his wife and son on the other side. His heart was filled with bitterness. In just over a month, the family fell apart. It all started when they failed Emu. Mr. Moore, with tears in his eyes, endlessly regretted, It's all my fault. I hurt Emu and you all too. Moo Moo and Julian couldn't help but cry upon hearing this, filled with remorse. If they had treated Emu well from the start, even if they hadn't found their biological daughter, life wouldn't have come to this. The prison guard came over to remind him that visiting time was almost up. Julian grabbed the phone anxiously and said, "Dad, take care, I will definitely find a way to get you out." Mo Fu shook his head helplessly. "Ayu, don't worry about me. This is my fault. If you have the opportunity, apologize to Emu for me. We should all apologize to him. We are sorry for him." Mo Fu was taken away, and Mrs. Moore cried until she almost lost consciousness. Seeing that her face was getting worse, Julian did not dare to delay and quickly sent her to the hospital. Mrs. Moore woke up again, looking at Julian with teary eyes. "Ayu, we should apologize to Emu. We were wrong." Julian shook his hand and nodded vigorously. "Mom, why don't you call Emu again? Even though we haven't been fair to him, we have lived together for more than 10 years after all. If he knew you were sick, maybe he would soften. As long as he is willing to help, any problem can be solved." Mrs. Moore had hope in her eyes, but also some uncertainty. "Is it possible?" Julian took her hand and encouraged her. "Won't you try it? Avery no longer has the same phone number." This number was painstakingly obtained by Julian from a college roommate. The phone rang for quite a while before someone answered. "Hello," a familiar voice came from the earpiece. Mo Moo's nose tingled, and tears immediately welled up. "Amu," she said with a choked voice. "I'm Mom. Are you okay?" Avery was stunned for a moment, put away her previous polite tone, and replied coldly, "My mother is Mrs. Mo, the president of the Maddie Group. Please don't get the wrong person." Mrs. Moore heard her icy voice and felt a sharp pain in her heart. She covered her chest and trembled as she spoke. "Amu, we weren't good before. We know we were wrong. Amu, the family is a mess now. Your father had an accident, and Mom is sick too. The doctor said that Mom doesn't have much time left. For the sake of the 10 years I took care of you, come back and see Mom, okay?" There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Julian and Mrs. Moore looked at each other nervously, fearing that Emu would hang up the phone the next second. After a long while, Avery spoke slowly. "I will transfer a sum of money to your account as settlement for the living expenses of these years. Don't forget that it was Mr. Mo who personally said that I and the Mo family have nothing to do with each other." After hanging up the phone, Mo couldn't hold back any longer and burst into tears, covering her face. She had lost her biological daughter and also the adopted daughter she had raised for more than 10 years, and neither of them would ever come back. She had nothing left. She beat her chest with her fists, hating herself for doing so many foolish things. Julian grabbed her hand to keep her from hurting herself, but his face showed a glimmer of hope. "Mom, listen to me. I think there's still hope." "What?" Moo Moo looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "Mom, I just received the money Emu transferred. A full 10 million. What family would give 10 million in child support? He's definitely transferring the money under the guise of child support. But he's actually helping us through our difficulties. Didn't you hear that he still holds a grudge against Dad for what he said? That means he still cares about us. I already said that Emu isn't a heartless person, as long as we sincerely apologize and, moreover, we're in a difficult situation. He will definitely soften." Mrs. Moore wiped away her tears, looked at the balance on the bank card, and thought Julian was right. How could they have imagined that, for the current Avery? 10 million is just pocket money. Mrs. Moore's eyes filled with hope again, and she quickly took Julian's hand. "Son, we will apologize to Emu. We will apologize in the most sincere way. We will seek reporters to clarify the past, to clear Shen Emu's name, and then you will fly to the United States. No matter what method you use, even if you have to kneel and beg, you must obtain Emu's forgiveness. His biological parents are in charge of a super consortium. As long as he is willing to speak up for his father will definitely be able to avoid prison, and the Mo family will be able to recover." Hearing this, Julian clenched his fists tightly, as if he could already see that day. "Don't worry, I will definitely make Emu feel our sincerity," he said firmly. 2 days later, on a rainy day, Julian boarded a plane to the United States, full of hope and constantly rehearsing in his mind the words he would say to Avery. Although the lines were already written, his regret was real, especially after learning that the sister he had always favored was an imposter. Julian felt a chill. During this time, he dreamed of regret, wondering why he hadn't trusted Avery more. She was so kind and sensible. With these thoughts, Julian fell asleep on the plane, dreaming of a happy scene where the whole family celebrated Avery's birthday. A violent tremor shattered the dream. Julian felt the whole plane shaking violently. The trembling voice of the flight attendant came through the loudspeaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, our plane has been struck by lightning. The power system is damaged. Please fasten your seatbelts, put on your oxygen masks, and await further arrangements." Julian felt his heart pounding fiercely. And soon there was darkness before his eyes. Feeling the despair of weightlessness in the darkness, before completely losing consciousness, Julian murmured in his heart, "Amu, I'm sorry. I may not have the chance to tell you I'm sorry in person." The news of a passenger plane flying from Beijing to California, USA, being struck by lightning spread rapidly around the world. None of the 163 passengers on board survived. When Avery saw the news, she had just received a video from a university classmate. Unaware that Julian was on that plane, she swiped away from the news and opened the video. In the video, Julian and Momu repeatedly bowed to the camera, saying that they had been deceived by bad people and had misunderstood their daughter Avery. They said that Avery had never hurt anyone, nor had she cheated on exams, nor had she plagiarized experiment results. Avery is a good girl, serious, hardworking, kind, and sincere. Messages pop up one after another. "Amu, have you vented?" Sigh. They were also deceived. "It's all that Chloe's fault." Now the school forum is full of this message. "Everyone knows you are innocent." They want to ask if they can apologize for what they said before. Avery softly typed a few words on the phone screen. "It's all over. It doesn't matter." Although she says it doesn't matter, she still can't help but feel a little bitter. Those painful and suffocating experiences seem like they were just yesterday. No matter how magnanimous she is, she can't truly forgive the Mo family. Never seeing each other again for the rest of their lives might be the best ending for them. In the garden, Kai Hao looked at his phone and then looked at Kai Avery inside the house. Should he tell his sister that the boy from the Mo family is on this plane? Kai's mother shook her head. "There's no need, whether it's love or hate, it's all in the past. Don't let her know." At the hospital across the ocean, Mrs. Moore guarded the door of the hospital ward from morning to night, hoping to see Julian and Mo. Avery's phone rang. He answered the call. It was the airline, with a voice of sorrow. "Madam, we regret to inform you that your son Julian died in a plane crash." Mrs. Moore couldn't believe what he was hearing, and he trembled and asked again. Moments later, a hoarse cry came from the hospital room. "My son." The heart monitor issued an urgent alarm, and doctors and nurses rushed into the room. The patient was agitated and fell into a coma. "Quick, to the emergency room." Only a few people attended Julian's funeral, which was organized by the airline. Expert Ethan walked into the funeral home dressed in black, looking at the familiar face in the black and white photo, his emotions running high. Lately, he always has nightmares, dreaming of Amu, dreaming of Julian, dreaming of Uncle Mo and Aunt Mo. In the past, he regarded them as his closest friends and family, but now everything has changed. The Mo family's company went completely bankrupt. Mr. Moore was sentenced to 5 years for intentional injury. Julian's remains were not found. And Mrs. Moore, unable to withstand the blow of Julian's death, lost his mind. After the Qingming festival, he also felt that all of this was a punishment. Before, Amu was forced into a desperate situation by them, standing on the roof, determined to jump and end her young life. Now, the people who hurt Amu are suffering punishments one after another. He doesn't know if he will be the next one. He feels a little scared, a little nervous, but mostly regretful. After returning from the United States, Ethan tried hard to adapt to the days without Amu. Time passed day by day, but his longing and worry for him increased ceaselessly. So much that he could barely breathe. Ethan was unwilling to give up. He wanted to fight for himself once. He applied to study for a postgraduate degree in the United States, thinking of being closer to Emu. Appearing often in front of him, making him feel his feelings, as he used to be by his side all the time. Maybe one day he would soften. On the first day he landed in the United States, Ethan went to Emu's school. He changed his major. But he was still studying at one of the best universities in the country. Avery was stunned when she saw him. She always felt that the things that happened in Beige City had happened a long, long time ago. So long that she could hardly remember what Ethan looked like. She continued chatting with her friends with a smile, ignored his raised hand, and brushed past him like an unrelated stranger on campus. A sense of loss flooded his heart. Ethan's hand froze in the air, and his heart felt even more empty. Ethan didn't give up. Even though Avery never paid attention to him, he still frequently appeared in every aspect of her life. If she went to the cafeteria, he would sit in a corner and order the same coffee as her, familiarizing himself with her current tastes. If she studied in the library, he would take a book and sit in front of her, with his eyes on the book but paying attention to her movements out of the corner of his eye. After following Avery for 3 months, she finally stopped and looked at him. That familiar look made Ethan's heart flutter. Just when he was finally expecting the opportunity, Avery walked up to him and said flatly, "Ethan, haven't you had enough? You look like a stalker. You're bothering me a lot now." Ethan felt like he was falling into an ice cellar. The girl who once looked at him affectionately now said he was bothering her. Ethan's eyes turned red and he looked at her pleadingly. "Emu, I'm sorry, I'm bothering you. I just miss you so much. The days you were away from me, I was like a living dead. I couldn't eat or sleep. It was too painful. Emu, only when I see you do I feel like I'm still alive. Emu, give me another chance. Please, give me another chance." Listening to Ethan's humble plea, Avery in the pond felt no ripple in her heart. Her calm eyes made Ethan panic. He took out a small ebony ring from his pocket and looked at Avery carefully. "Avery, do you remember this? On my 20th birthday. You carved it yourself. You said you would use it to tie me down and that we would never." Ethan didn't finish speaking. Avery reached out to snatch the ring and threw it into the artificial lake next to her without hesitation. "Ethan, wake up. The ring is gone, and we are impossible." Ethan's breathing quickened instantly. He rushed to the railing of the lake and looked back at Avery and jumped down without hesitation. In such a large artificial lake, finding a ring is incredibly difficult. But Ethan doesn't give up, swimming back and forth, not missing a single crack between the algae, from dawn to dusk. Many companions on the shore advise him to stop searching. Jiming, who also believes it is impossible to find, shakes his head, takes a deep breath, and dives back into the water. This ring is a memento of the love between him and Emu, and he has always believed that as long as the ring is there, Emu will not leave him and will one day return to his side. Finally, Jiming also saw the small ebony ring under a rock. He picked up the ring and climbed to the shore excitedly. Looked around the lake, but did not see Avery. She was already gone. Ethan, exhausted and soaked, searched for Avery all over campus and finally saw her at the exit of the library. She was walking down the stairs next to a tall and handsome boy. I don't know what they said, but Avery rested her head on his shoulder and smiled charmingly and naively. Ethan trembled completely and blocked their way. He raised the ebony ring and said in a hoarse voice, "Avery, I found the ring. Does that mean we still have a chance? Can you give me another chance?" Emu. Kai-ching took a step back, took the arm of the boy next to her, and gently shook her head. "Let me introduce you. This is my boyfriend, Cheng Xiao." Ethan took 2 steps back running, and almost fell. He kept shaking his head, refusing to believe Avery's swords. "You're lying to me. You just haven't forgiven me, right?" Avery didn't answer him anymore. Cheng Xiao put his arm around her waist as if to mark his territory, and he left that place. Once she made sure that Ethan wasn't following them, Avery breathed a sigh of relief. "Phew, I hope he stops bothering me now." He patted his chest and suddenly realized that he had a pair of warm hands around his waist. He quickly took a step back and thanked Cheng Xiao. "Luckily I met you today. Thank you for being willing to be my shield." In the moonlight, Cheng Xiao's gaze was incredibly gentle. "You should be thanking me. It's an honor for me. Avery was startled by the ambiguity in her tone and subconsciously lowered his head to avoid her gaze. Cheng Xiao and Kai are partners in managing the household. Cheng Xiao was introduced to Avery by Kai's mother, who hoped that he could move on from the shadows of the past. He understands Kai's mother's hard work and does not refuse. Cheng Xiao and his family are comparable, and she is gentle and educated, so he has a good impression of her. But he has not yet considered further development. He was stunned when Cheng Xiao stepped forward, bringing the two closer together. Emu, he is gentle. Did you know, seeing Ethan a moment ago, he was more nervous than you. Kai Avery suddenly raised his head, surprised that Cheng Xiao actually knew Ethan, and her next words completely disturbed his heart, which had been silent for a long time. Before, as long as Ethan was in your eyes, you couldn't tolerate anyone else. So you don't know that in the library, the basketball court, the lab, there is someone silently paying attention to you. Emu, I know you've been through a lot, and it may be difficult for you to start a new relationship, but I still want to pluck up the courage to tell you, Emu, I like you. Whether you are Mu Avery or Kai Avery, I like you. It took me many years to get to your side, and I don't want to miss this opportunity. Emu, think about it. The delicate and attractive face in front of him overlapped with those insignificant memories hidden in the corners. Eating, Avery covered his mouth in surprise, and also felt a slight soreness in his nose. He never knew that in those years when he silently pursued Ethan, there was also someone who silently watched him, that when he was criticized by everyone, there was also someone who raised a weak voice to defend him. Fortunately, he didn't miss this sincere affection. 3 years later, at the largest tulip farm in Beia, an exquisite and impressive wedding is being held. It is rumored that the bride, the general manager of Medigroup, Kai Avery, has a predilection for tulips. The groom, Cheng Xiao, is in charge of the world's leading energy company, so he returned to his country a year earlier to buy this farm and plant it with tulips for the bride. Previously, they held a wedding of the century that attracted global attention in the United States, but in Beia, Cheng Xiao's hometown, this small wedding appreciation banquet still amazes all the guests. All the celebrities of Beia attended this wedding, making it the closest they've ever been to these two consortium heirs. Ethan is also among them, looking at Xin Niang, radiant in a haute couture wedding dress not far away. Ethan felt like an eternity had passed. He could hardly remember how long it had been since he had seen his Emu. 3 years ago, he was entangled with Emu on the US campus. At first, he thought Cheng Xiao was just a shield she had found, but then he watched them go back and forth together, their feelings growing stronger and stronger. One quiet night, he saw them kissing in the moonlight in a dark corner. At that moment, Ethan seemed to have stopped breathing, clearly hearing the sound of his soul drifting away from his body. The stinging pain of flesh and bone separating spreading throughout his body, he collapsed to the ground, powerless. Since then, he had never seen Emu again. Later, the G family's business suffered a setback and was on the verge of bankruptcy overnight. Ethan had to end his studies early and return to his country to take responsibility for his family. After struggling for a few years, he barely managed to maintain his own business, neither getting worse nor better. Whenever he saw photos of Emu in the news, he was keenly aware that the distance between them was growing. Hundreds of fireworks bloomed at the same time, the fireworks and tulips complementing each other, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Everyone congratulated and envied the fairytale couple on the stage. G-Minute wasn't very close either, but she clearly heard Avery's firm and powerful "I do," and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. I vaguely remember that a few years ago, on his 20th birthday, Emu gave him a hand-carved ebony ring. He was drunk, received the ring, and vaguely asked her, "Emu, are you proposing to me?" She blushed, even the tips of her ears were flushed and delicate. Ethan, in his days, made his first promise, that proposing marriage has to come from a man. "So if I proposed to you, what would you say?" he teased her. A sweet voice echoed in his ear. She said she would say yes. Like today, she would say yes. Ji-Ming also slowly withdrew from the crowd, walking away. Today the weather is nice, the sun is warm, but it hurts him to see it, tears glistening in the sunlight. Ji-Ming is also standing in the warmth, but he can't help but feel a chill. Those summers that he once loved and hated will not return. This is simply turning the story of how to turn someone into a tool into a hellish 4D amusement park, where the protagonist is raised and repeatedly killed by a wealthy family of fiancés. Her academic achievements are stolen, and she is accused of plagiarism. The school directly presses the button to withdraw her and block all her doors and labs with one click. A god of learning is instantly struck down and accused of plagiarism. I blame myself for being so despicable. The pool scene completely broke me. With a high fever, I was forced to wear an oxygen mask to search for a necklace underwater while 4 people on the shore chatted and laughed. She searched in the water for 5 full hours. This operation is more ruthless than 8 o'clock dramas. Anyone who sees it will feel bad. The rooftop scene is even more incredible. The male protagonist uses his life and death as a tool for emotional blackmail, a phrase of appeasement combined with rolling eyes. So despicable that it shines. At this moment, I just want to shout on behalf of the entire internet. Sisters, run away quickly, fortunately. The female protagonist finally makes a swift turn in her life, turning off her phone at the airport and throwing it into the toilet in a simple and neat manner. The truth in the latter part is that the fake rich daughter collapses and someone is punished by heaven. The feeling of extreme revenge is late but strong. Vomiting all the frustration that had accumulated in the throat, the overall rhythm is like riding a roller coaster. The consecutive frontal assaults are amazing. And the sweetness of the subsequent reversal is satisfying but not cloying. It belongs to the rare growth line of a protagonist who saves herself in abuse and catharsis dramas. Amu, remember, don't look back, your world no longer needs to contain them. Okay, today's story ends here. If everyone likes this video, you can subscribe. We will continue to update more exciting stories, and we look forward to seeing you next time.